Minimalism is a powerful tool that can help us define our priorities, gain clarity on our purpose, and help us to narrow in on where we want to spend our time and energy. It's not a magic bullet, it certainly won't solve all of your problems, but when I first stumbled across it, it truly had a transformative effect. And those effects ran much deeper than my newfound love of a simple wardrobe and pour-over coffee. I stumbled across minimalism about a decade ago. It's been 10 years since I first stumbled across those early blog posts and interviews that really got me to change my perspective and my entire life. But over that time, I've also run into a lot of friction. Those who think that minimalism is something that it's not. Those who think that it's gonna solve all their problems, and those who think that it's complete bullshit. And so in this video, I wanna talk about the many myths and misconceptions about minimalism, what it can truly do for you, and what I've learned about it personally practicing it over the past 10 years or so. Myth number 1, minimalism is a destination. When you first begin to declutter your home, cull down your junk drawers, and clean out your attic, minimalism can feel like a destination. For most of us, the before and after image is pretty dramatic. There's your chaotic, cluttered home and the more tranquil, decluttered version. And depending upon how much stuff you have, it could just take a couple weeks to go through the entire decluttering process. But the truth is that as your life changes, the things that you need, the things that you bring into your life will change as well. What you own today may not actually bring value or joy to you 1 year from now. And so you need to constantly ask those questions. Do you really need this thing? Are you really getting value from it? And this couldn't be any more apparent than when you look at my own craft of filmmaking. So one area that I have not decluttered in a while is my gear closet. As a filmmaker and a minimalist, I try to be as intentional as I can with every purchase that I make. But inevitably there are things that I buy that either didn't live up to the hype, I misjudged how useful the tool would be, or my needs as a filmmaker changed. A lot of XLR cables that I haven't used, my drone, which I never use, I should get rid of. I don't do it every year, it's not always for the same reason, but there have been many times over the past 10 years that I go back to basics to intentionally practice minimalism again. The first time that I had a really big decluttering experiment was definitely back in 2010 when I first came across minimalism. I packed away about 80 to 90% of my clothes into bags to donate, and I had boxes of stuff, memorabilia, things that I was holding onto since I was a kid that I realized that I was never going to use and that I didn't get any value from. So I got rid of all that stuff. That was definitely the most dramatic downsizing of my life. But since that time, I still have these small decluttering experiments where I go throughout my house, look in my junk drawers, take a look at my camera gear, and ask myself what I could downsize. During these times, I'll ask myself whether I want to hold on to those boots, that camera, or my framed photo of The Rock. The answer in this particular case, no, no, and yes, 1,000,000 times yes. So whether you started practicing minimalism 5 years ago, or you're gonna be starting right after watching this video, you're gonna have to continue to come back to these basic principles and ask yourself these questions again and again as your life continues to change. And this is also a time to start to look past the clutter and ask some deeper questions, which actually brings me to myth number 2. Oftentimes people think that minimalism and decluttering are the same thing. I was interviewing a podcast guest last year, back when we used to hang out with people in person, and they asked me after the show, is there really a difference between minimalism and decluttering, or is it just semantics? From the outside, it's easy to see why most people think that minimalism and decluttering are the same thing. It's the most visual part of the process. It's the thing that usually kickstarts the changes in your life. You go from one junk drawer to the next, to your basement, to your attic, getting rid of the things that you no longer use or get value from. But decluttering is really just one part of the puzzle. Minimalism is a reaction to the status quo. Our parents and grandparents were looking for a better life, and so many of them channeled that into attaining material possessions and wealth. The innovation of online shopping, one-click purchases, and 2-day shipping dramatically increased that drive for stuff. It's a story that runs so deep beneath our culture that often we never question it. We somehow think that getting the right job, getting a high enough salary, buying the latest car will somehow solve all of your problems. That the key to happiness is just a matter of collecting the right trophies. But once we've got our basic needs met, getting more stuff won't make us happy. Minimalism really woke me up to the path that I was heading down. It made me question whether I really wanted to go there, if I wanted to buy into all the messages that I was seeing on social media, through advertising, all these things that were influencing my opinion when I didn't even realize it. Once you begin to look past this stuff, you're forced to ask yourself some really difficult questions. Like, if you aren't going to dedicate your life to attaining more things, then how are you going to spend your days? What are you working so hard for? What's most important in your life? Answering these questions can be really painful. It's something that we often avoid by scrolling through social media, by distracting ourselves with the progress of our career. But once we begin to ask these questions and answering them honestly with an open heart, we can begin to think about the future that we want to create for ourselves. You can't talk about minimalism myths without covering the biggest among them, that by becoming a minimalist, you need to get rid of all of your stuff, live a life of deprivation, and follow a set of minimalist protocols. I think it's apparent from my gear closet that in order to consider yourself a minimalist, you don't need to get rid of all your stuff. But there's still a common myth that in order to truly become a minimalist, whatever that really means, you need to reduce your possessions down to just a few items. I think there's really two reasons for this. For one, the word minimalism certainly feels pretty extreme and pretty dramatic when in actuality it isn't. And also, when you look online, when you look on social media and YouTube, it can certainly feel like all minimalists' lives look very similar. They have a stack of the same t-shirt they wear every day, one pair of jeans, a pour-over coffee kit, marble countertops, and a slim wallet. What? What are you looking at? Well, don't judge me. What? I just happen to like those things, okay? Jeez, can't make anybody happy these days. But what I've learned from chatting with so many other minimalists and getting a look at their homes and how they live their lives is that no two minimalists are the same. Sure, some people who practice minimalism have shared interests or shared aesthetics. They're more inclined to keep a tidy home and a decluttered closet, but other than that, the things that they own and how they live their lives are radically different. I've been talking about minimalism online for long enough to know that one of the most common things that people say, especially when they see something that doesn't really line up with their expectations of what minimalism is that, well, that's not very minimalist. They see a fake plant or a toy or a closet filled with camera gear, and they say, well, that doesn't really make sense. That's not what I thought minimalism was. But that's what minimalism really looks like in practice. You might have a walk-in closet filled with clothes, or you might be able to fit all your worldly possessions into a backpack. If you're doing the work and making intentional decisions with the things that you bring into your life, then you're practicing minimalism. You could even call yourself a minimalist if you wanted to, but you certainly don't have to. This video is brought to you by my friends at Squarespace. I've been partnering with Squarespace all year because I truly have gotten a ton of value from their platform, and it has saved me so much time as a creator over the past few years. Here's why using Squarespace is a no-brainer. If you want to build a website, create a company, or start a podcast, you can get a beautiful website up and running in no time. Over the past 10 years, I have worn so many different hats as a content creator. I've been a cinematographer, an editor, an interviewer, an audio engineer, the list goes on. But the one thing that I've never been any good at is design. But with Squarespace, I was able to pick from one of their beautiful templates, customize it to fit my message, and I was in business. Get powerful analytics, start a blog, promote your social accounts, and much more. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/MattDiavella to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. It truly is unbelievable that I even came across minimalism. Like, the chances of me finding it in my parents' basement 10 years ago is just, the chances were probably so slim that I would stumble across it, but I did. And it completely changed my perspective. Just reading a couple early blog posts from people like Leo Babauta and The Minimalist, Courtney Carver, just so many people who were writing about this thing got me to change my perspective. And I wouldn't be here today talking about minimalism or talking about these ideas without some of those early influences in my life. And I'm just so fortunate now. I've gotten to hear and speak with so many of you who subscribe and watch the videos on this channel to know that some of my videos have been that same catalyst for change in your life. absolutely blows my mind. It's not something I'll ever get used to, but it's something that I appreciate every single day. And so I hope that in this video, you're able to take a thing or two away about how to practically apply minimalism to your life, maybe over the next decade or more to come. And yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning into my videos every week. It truly means the world to me. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. What? What are you looking at? Are you saying that I am one of those people? You think that's me? You think that's a representation of who I am? Wow. I thought I knew you, you know? I thought we were getting along. I thought we had this little thing going for the past 3 years, and now all of a sudden you're gonna put me in a boat with all these other minimalists? Wow. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. You know what? You do you, I'll do me, which is very stereotypical minimalist online.